Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk a little psychology, specifically a theory from Skinner, and I will drop that in the comments. One of those, I guess you could say, famous researchers. And so what we're going to talk about is negative reinforcements, right? So we're going to discuss negative reinforcements. Now, when you think of negative reinforcements, think of experience. But think of you not just having experience, but you actually using the experience to allow you to not be in a situation again, right? So you have been in a negative situation, which means you have some experience with that particular situation or that particular event or whatever it is. And so people would say, a lot of times we would say that experience is a great teacher. However, experience is only a great teacher if we decide that we are going to use it as a great teacher. So when you're thinking negative reinforcement, which is what we're going to discuss today, behavioral psychology is where this whole thing comes from. So when we're thinking negative reinforcement, right, which is behavioral psychology, when we're thinking that, think experience, but think about experience that has really allowed you to think about how you would move forward, right? And to make the changes necessary that you won't be in a certain situation again, right? So, okay, let me give you a couple examples. One, let's say that you have the last either the last or the first four or five people, serious relationships that you've had now in your life have all gone bad. Let's say they've all gone bad. The last four people you've dated, or in your entire life, maybe you've only dated four or five people, right? And serious relationships, but they have all gone bad. No, you have experience. And a lot of people would say, well, yes, experience is the greatest teacher. Yes. So you have experience, you've been in relationships, you know how they go, all that sort of stuff. The thing is, what now are you going to put in place to help ensure that you don't have another negative situation going forward or another negative relationship? And so that is what negative reinforcement is. You put something in place to help avoid any negative outcome that can occur because of the event or the situation or whatever it is that you're walking into. So another example would be, you're gonna go camping or something like that. I'm trying to do some simple things. So you're gonna go camping. What are some of the negative things that can happen when you go camping? And so to avoid those negative situations, you're prepared with certain types of things. I guess depending on the weather, or if you have some kind of weapon or whatever it is to defend yourself while you're out there camping, or something to make food, or uh, anything along those lines, right? So negative reinforcement means that you are putting something in place that is going to help avoid a negative outcome. So for a lot of people have a terrible at spending money. Okay, that's an example I love to use. A lot of people, are just terrible with money. The more money they make, the more money they need because they can't seem to be able to control their money. But what I realize also is a lot of people don't do budgeting. So, for example, budgeting would be the thing you put in place to help avoid the negative outcome, which is the fact that you have trouble, holding on to your money. You're making it, but you're not holding on to your money, right? And so one mechanism that you might put in place would be to put a budget or get a budget in place. So think of it, it's really practical, right? If you go to a lot of, whether it's a life coach or a financial advisor or whatever the case is, and you talk about money, one of the first things they're going to tell you is, one of the first topics they're going to bring up is, so do you budget? What does your budget look like? If you're going to start a business, what does your budget look like? So think of it in terms of that. That's what negative reinforcement is. You're putting something, a reinforcement, literally, right? You're putting something in place as a reinforcement to help ensure that you do not come across a negative situation. So in a relationship, it might be, again, going back to the relationship, it might be that you take a longer period of time to get to know someone before you engage with them, in intimacy or sex or whatever the case is. So you might take a little bit longer time to get to know them. You might ask certain questions. You might realize there's certain questions now that you need to ask that you never would have posed to someone before, but now you're going to ask them those questions because you realize it's important for you to have certain bits of information. So you might consider that to be having your guard up, right? And that's, if that's what you want to call it, that's kind of really what it is too. But it's also because you're trying to ensure that you do not end up hurt again. So think of all your life situations and circumstances and all the negative stuff that has ever happened to you, anything negative, and think of moving forward, especially when it comes to like relationships and money, the things that are really constant, because there's some experiences you could have and you don't know if you're ever going to have that experience again, that particular experience. But some things are really constant in our life, like money and relationships and all that sort of stuff, and your career and all that. So, what then could you put in place to, what negative reinforcement can you put in place to make sure that you don't, entertain people or things that can only lead to you experiencing negative outcomes in your life, right? What things can you put in place that can lead to you not experiencing certain negative outcomes from certain people or certain situations? As I said, whether it's money or whether it's relationships or whatever the case is, what are some of those things that you can then put in place? So that is what negative reinforcement is. That's you telling yourself, look, I've been through certain things, I've struggled with certain things, and I'm going to not just, you see, what I've realized doing life coaching, I realized that a lot of people would say, I've had this negative experience and this didn't go well and all that sort of stuff, and but they really haven't come up with a plan or thought seriously enough beyond just the experience to make sure that they don't end up in a similar situation over and over again. And that is why you see a lot of people repeatedly end up doing the same thing and end up in the same situation over and over and over again. It's simply because they experienced it. Sometimes it might be really traumatic, and so some people are not be able to move beyond the trauma and be able to put certain things in place so that they don't have to dance with that trauma again, so to speak. They don't have to it doesn't have to be a part of their life again, that type of traumatic event. And so what happens is they ignore it, or maybe they're just not able to mentally cope and deal with it, and so they end up finding themselves in the same situation. You've probably had friends who've come to you over and over again complaining about the same person, or I don't know why I keep dating all these people, or whatever the case is, that sort of stuff. What you've got to do if you've got friends or family like that, what you have to do with them is ask them, so what changes have you made? What have you done different since the last 4 or 5 bad relationships that you've had? What are you doing different now to make sure that you don't end up in that situation again? And sometimes, look, you can't guard against that. You could decide you're going to wait 1 year now, maybe, to be intimate with someone versus 2 months. And most people tell you, yeah, that's good. At least you've gotten a chance to get to know them better. But that doesn't mean that the person can't still turn out to be whatever, still a bad person or whatever the case is, even though you've waited a year. But what it does mean is that you are giving yourself an opportunity to not be hurt and to not end up in certain situations as you used to. And so that is where negative reinforcement is. What are you putting in as a barrier to make sure that there's certain BSs that you don't have to deal with in your life, or certain financial traumatic things that you don't have to go through again? You don't have to be broke again. You don't have to be, and that is what negative reinforcement is. So, let me know what are some things you have done in your life as far as putting up some negative reinforcements and putting some things in place so that you don't have to deal with certain things again. You know, drop those in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your post notifications. Also, please don't forget to share the videos and hit the like button. Those two things help the channel grow, and I'll really appreciate it if you do that. Also, you can leave your comments. Let me know what videos you would like for me to make. I mean, I love talking about all different sorts of stuff. My interest is broad and wide. So if there's something that you want me to do, I'll certainly look into it, and I definitely more than likely would make it. So take care. Until next time, peace.